right, and we're back for another episode of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It's Gerald Glasser coming right back at you here from Lakers Fast Break. Pop Culture Cosmos, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our shows. And if you can, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Plus, if you can like, share, subscribe, follow, or do anything that you can to support us right here at the Lakers Fast Break, it is sincerely appreciated. Almost indeed. They almost pulled off the big one without Alex Caruso, without Anthony Davis, without Marc Gasol, and also without LeBron James himself. The Lakers, very shorthanded going up into Sacramento, almost pulled off the impossible and almost cost Luke Walton his job, essentially. But we'll see what happens if he's not fired anyways. But they couldn't get the shots to fall in that last minute, just almost tantalizingly close balls, just layup after layup after layup, gimme after gimme, bunny after bunny, in that last minute, just falling just short. The Lakers were not able to go ahead and execute. Just missed a couple of easy stuff, putbacks, things of that nature, and then Schroeder not getting a bounce on the rim in the last minute as well. The Lakers fall just short, 123-120. But you know what? Great game by Montrezl Harrell, Kyle Kuzma, and Dennis Schroeder. You couldn't ask for anything better from those three. 25 points and 12 rebounds for Kuz. Dennis Schroeder, 28 points and 9 assists. Montrezl Harrell, 26 points and 13 rebounds. All shot above 50% or above from the field. Excellent performances from each. They've got nice contributions from THT, Taylor Horton-Tucker, and also Alfonso McKinney, among others. Like I said, a very spirited performance. They didn't roll over at all. In fact, they had a large lead at the first quarter. They were up by as many as 14 at one point. Very encouraged by it. It's one of those things that, yes, they did end up losing, but you got to admire the spirit that this team has going into the All-Star break. And here today to talk about the game is a good man indeed. He is the mastermind behind Lakerholics.com. It is LakerTom and LakerTom. Like I said, I can't be too mad. When you're 4 players short, it's really not that hard to figure out. But I've got to be, and if I'm in Sacramento, I've got to be a little bit more concerned, because if you're barely squeaking this out against that short of a Lakers team, you've got some serious issues.
Well, they haven't made the playoffs for a longer period of time than any team in the NBA. So it's, it was actually a fun game to watch. A lot of defensive lapses. The easy comparison at the end of the game was the last 3 shots that the Kings got were very easy gimmies, and the last 3 shots that the Lakers got were pretty tough shots to make. You could also look at this as the Buddy Hield trade preview, because Buddy Hield is exactly what the Lakers need, to be honest. They need a volume 3-point shooter. He hit 7 of 11 from deep. What's the difference in the game? He erased the 14-point lead himself. And that's what the Lakers don't have, really. They don't have a guy who can come in and all of a sudden score 10, 12 points in a row real quickly, especially with the 3-point shot. We did well at the 3-point shot. We shot over 40%, which was good. And we held our own with the totals. Each team made the same number of threes. Rebounds were pretty close. It was a close game all the way, basically. I'm just glad we got out of it with nobody else getting injured. Now we got 9 days off to see what happens, see what kind of deals can be made. Everybody is now eligible to be traded, including KCP. And I tell you, the weirdest thing about this game was Kenny didn't miss a shot, but he started off really hot and he basically didn't shoot. It's just, I don't understand what's going on with his mind, because when you're a shooter, you basically want to shoot the ball, and he was, and if you start off the game red hot, you'd think that you think that your teammates would get you the ball and make some plays. I love Schroeder's play. He got some great passes to Harrell. Harrell played a spirited game. It was actually, it would have been a tie game if we hadn't been cheated out of that that 3-point shot that Hield had with his foot on the line. But, hey, it's an entertaining game. We didn't have anybody injured. We go into the All-Star break now. It was good to see the Jazz also lose. Joel Embiid hit a 3-pointer to tie the game and send it in overtime. There's still games tomorrow, and then there's games starting on the 11th. So we finish the first half of the season a day early. We start the second half of the season a day late, which gives us 9 days off compared to the 7 days off that the Kings will have. So, it's just one of those things, when you play those close games, the bounce of the ball will always determine in the end who wins. And we had, there were several shots down there at the end that if they'd gone in, we could have easily ended up winning this game, but we didn't.
All we needed was those two at the end. There was one by Schroeder, I think about 40 seconds left, that easy layup, and just couldn't get it done.
Right.
And, hey, thank you, Kevin, for the nice thumbs up. We truly appreciate it. And, again, that just missed that first one. And then the second one, obviously, with just a few seconds left, Schroeder misses again, just a bunny that just falls short. And then the putbacks by, I think, Harrell and Kuzma.
Harrell was misreading.
That was a one-footer.
He shot that one way too fast.
Yeah. He
didn't
have to.
But that's his shot. His shot is to throw it up there quick.
Yeah.
I tell you, between Harrell and Holmes, both of them fire these little shots from the waist almost, that
they're very similar.
Put them up there.
They're very similar player. They're a very similar player. I think Harrell has a little bit more of a range as far as a 15-footer is concerned, but still they're very similar in the way they play.
I remember when Holmes was coming out of college, and he was one of the players that the Lakers at one point in time were really high on. And the reason they were high on him is because he had really displayed a great ability to shoot the three.
Yeah.
He hasn't done that at all in the pros, surprisingly. Because he'd had a great workout and had been buried a whole bunch of threes in a couple of matchups that he had, and the Lakers were talking about him as a stretch five. We never got a chance to draft him. He ended up, I don't even know if he went to Sacramento first. I think he was signed by Sacramento, went somewhere else first. But it's funny that he's got that quick little shot, which just surprises everybody, And it reminds me a lot of Harrell's quick little push shot. But some good signs tonight, and we'll see what happens. It's, it'll be interesting to see if we have the same team when we come back on the 12th.
It'll be interesting to see what happens here over the next few days. Obviously, we'll be back to talk about it. I also have an interview scheduled and lined up with the man himself, part of the Locked On team, the Locked On podcast team. It is Rafael Barlow. I'll have a good conversation with him coming up here in the next couple of days, so I'm looking forward to that. But also Laker Tom, hopefully we'll get the Lakerholics crew back together at least one, if not twice more, during the break to go ahead and give detailed thoughts on grades for the first half, and also as well what to look forward to in the second half for the team. So we'll be bringing you that. But yes, again, very spirited performance today. I mean, this is the kind of attitude that you want to see, the kind of efficiency you want to see from those three players, Kuzma, Schroeder, and Harrell. It was nice to see what you could get out of McKinney and THT. McKinney, who you probably won't see much of again unless a situation like this happens again. But it's nice to see him still show the NBA out there, even if he doesn't stay with the Lakers, that he can still play at an NBA level.
I'm sure for the players in a certain sense, I wrote that I thought this was going to be a G League type of game, and it was. Lineups, the Kings had a few players missing too. So you had a situation where there were a lot of players who were playing with guys that they weren't used to playing, especially on the Lakers side. We saw a lot of defensive miscommunications where two guys would go with one guy and leave somebody wide open underneath the basket, or wide open for a three. And, it always frustrates you. Like, for example, when Buddy got hot, you simply would think that the coach would say, you stay with Buddy, and you stay with Buddy regardless of where he goes. You don't help out on him. You just stay with him. And
well, he's not hitting. He's below 40% on the season as far as overall.
True, but he's a streak shooter, man. Everybody knows he's a streak shooter. And when he started, he hit like 10 shots in a row.
I know when he hit today. I'm just saying you play the odds and statistics, and he's been struggling.
Yeah, you don't play the odds and statistics when he's makes 6 or 7 in a row there.
Well, again, it comes down to guarding the three. This is something that the Lakers, even though statistically you say they've done well, I say that, like you said, like I've said, that they do not.
Statistically, they are among the better teams
again, they
in the percentages, the number of makes and takes and percentages. They used to be, at least 3 or 4 games ago, in the top 5 in all 3 categories.
Well, right now, again, it's who you give it up to. And like you said, today they shouldn't have given up to Hield because he was the hot man right there. So it's something that I guess has to attribute it to coaching and just basically keep that ball out of Hield's hands, which you can do.
Yeah.
They did such a wonderful job guarding and double teaming and aligning a defense the other day when it comes to Stephen Curry. I mean, you can arrange that on the fly and get these players' mindsets right.
It's a lot easier to do it when you've got most of your regular starting lineup there, other than AD.
That's true. That's true.
But
the energy should be there with these guys.
But playing great defense, playing the type of trapping, hedging team defense and rotating team defense that the Lakers play is a lot like playing offense in that it's a synchronized effort by everybody's part. And everybody has to be reading the same thing of where that next pass is going to go, who's the next open man, what's the next option that the other team has. And when you have a bunch of guys that haven't played much together, it's really difficult to do that. No. That's why you saw the kinds of mistakes that we saw tonight. But, hopefully we'll come out in the second half, and it'll be interesting to see. I'm looking forward to both having a session when we talk about the grades, as well as a session when we talk about what to expect from the Lakers in the second half. What adjustments are they going to make? Will Frank Vogel make some changes in the starting lineup? That's going to be an interesting situation. And obviously the logical person to talk about in that case is Kenny, whether or not he really should continue to start. We know he's played well off of the bench in the past, but he's obviously not mentally 100% or at this point in time. He was limping around there. He may have pulled something too. So let's get everybody healthy. Frank will get a chance. The players will get some time off for the All-Star break. And I also think that they'll get some practices in. And we haven't had much opportunity in this sort of shortened, compressed season to really have many practices. And it's something that you really especially need when you have players out of the lineup like AD does, and you have to make those adjustments. AD and LeBron gone today, and then also Gasol and Caruso. So it was interesting to see. I thought one of the highlights of the game was a steal by Dudley out there at half court. That was
I know, I saw it.
I'm sure you did.
Yes,
I thought of you when I saw it.
Yeah, and I said the same exact words to my daughter that I'm going to say now. Yes, LakerTom is going to let me know that. His one good play in 2 games. There you go. One good play in 2 games.
Well, he also pulled a chair. He pulled a chair on Sarek a couple of times. Made some good defensive plays.
Before Sarek destroyed him. Let's not go back to that. Let's not go back to that day. Let's not go back to yesterday.
I still don't understand the whole idea that if you're going small and you have a small ball, if the other team is going small and you have a small ball center in Trez Harrell, why is he sitting on the bench?
Yeah, him and also Jones. Twitter was in an uproar about.
But Jones, you can understand because Jones, I
know, but it just
you pull him away from the basket and it's difficult.
It's the Laker Twitter mentality. I mean, they see this 10-day kid, he blocks a shot, and everybody's in love with him, and then it goes from there.
They all think that he's the second coming of JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard.
Well, they had him line up with
He'll probably go the same way that Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee did.
And I don't want to see any more memes or pictures of Jones next to all the great centers of the Los Angeles Lakers history there. That was just awful. But the Lakers Twitters are out there. It's just so focused on these things sometimes. Harrell not playing in the second half.
It's their whole feeling that it was a big mistake that we let Howard and McGee go.
It was a big mistake not playing Harrell in the second half. That was a big deal to me. But Kuzma, you could tell with his heel contusion, that heel contusion actually must have healed up, pardon the pun, healed up really fast, doing 25 and 12 the next day. I think it was something funky where they knew well in advance they were going to sit down LeBron, and they said, Kuzma, you sit out here and you go ahead and you be available for Sacramento. I don't like that. I say put all your guns forward against Phoenix and then go ahead, sit Kuzma out the next game, sit Caruso out, sit as many as you want out against Sacramento. I really think they should have put their guns forward against Phoenix.
Listen, we sacrificed this game right from the get-go. It was obvious that we were not, we figured we still had a chance to win, no matter who we played, which doesn't say a whole lot for the players on the Kings.
That's correct. Well, that says a lot about what's going on with that organization, but need I digress?
Yeah. This is Raphael from NBA DraftJunkies.com, and you are listening to the Lakers Fast Break.
Check out what's been going on with the Pop Culture Cosmos Show and the PCC Multiverse.
People are just losing their minds trying to consume Marvel products right now, and I don't blame them. This is some of the best entertainment you can get on TV and big screen right now.
If something's going to be successful or not, they look at the mentions, they look at the likes, they look at the retweets and the tweets and the subtweets and the tweets, and they look at all of that to say, okay, this is actually going to garner a lot of attention.
Is it going to be enough, though? I think the fish out of water syndrome might be enough for somebody like us, because it's going to be hilarious to watch two stoner kids we saw barely make it through high school now live in a society that they fully don't understand because they've been stuck in a decade and never came out of it.
Facebook stars, not ninja stars, okay? I know how some people take things literally, so don't throw ninja stars at us, but like the Facebook stars. Click on those. That's what we want.
That's the Pop Culture Cosmos Show.
And the PCC Multiverse.
Catch our shows on Worldwide Radio 7 days a week and wherever you get your podcasts. They barely squeak out a win over the Los Angeles Lakers, 123-120. Again, a very spirited performance. I love the energy. The energy was terrific tonight, showed by the Lakers. You couldn't ask for more efficiency from Kuzma, Schroeder, and Harrell. You wish they could play this well all the time.
I'm sure they wish they got that many shots all the time.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yeah, I don't think any one of them sees 20 shots a game with LeBron and AD true. There. That's for sure. But again, just love the energy. You love the performance. I also enjoy the fact, and I know Jamie would have issues with this, but Markieff Morris running the offense at times. I thought that was kind of nifty. I don't know if you caught that, but it was kind of nifty how he was running off the offense at times. I thought it was kind of very interesting to see.
The other thing that still sort of was nice to see is the offense didn't stagnate.
Yeah.
There was a lot of two-man game, but rather
there was with THT. There was a lot of isolation with THT.
There was a lot of isolation with THT, but he got into the paint a lot, and as the announcers were saying, the big thing with him is if he keeps his head up and doesn't get out of control, that he can really wreak havoc underneath there. He had a good stretch in the game and so forth. It'll be interesting to see, what happens with THT. I think that in many ways, if we end up making a trade, I think that Talon could be our version of a lottery pick that we trade to somebody. 20 years old. No matter how quickly he develops and so forth, it's still probably going to be 2 or 3 years before he's a really big impact player on the team. I'd like it to be faster, but then also I look at the fact that he still has, even though he continues to shoot 82, 83% from the free throw line, he still is not shooting more than 30% from three. And most of the threes that he's taking, because of the nature of his game, are those step back threes, which are a much lower percentage shot than a catch and shoot three. And I go back to the same thing that, trade Buddy Hield for one of the guards that the Lakers have, and the Lakers are a much better team. They may not be a better team defensively for sure, but offensively, they're definitely going to be a better team, and there's going to be more spacing. It's going to be harder for teams to clog the paint and clog the middle and pack the paint against the Lakers. And there'll be more opportunities for both Anthony Davis and LeBron James to attack the rim.
Well, we'll see what happens.
See what happens with Rob Pelinka and what Rob can pull off.
We'll see if any magical things can be made as far as from this roster and changes. We'll see if Jones is going to be able to, Damian Jones is going to be actually staying for another 10-day contract or not. We'll see how it comes out on the other end. But For all your Lakers action and all your Lakers news, please check out LakerHolics.com. Obviously, there's going to be some great stuff that's put up there by Sean Grice. There's also going to be some five great things, actually, from Admiral Akbar himself, who called this trap game, and that would be Jamie Sweet himself. You'll hear a lot of great comments from L. Rob, and, of course, you'll see the latest episodes of the Lakers Fast Break. But before we're heading out, you do a great column there and also your Medium.com site. So what's going on with you at LakerHolics.com?
Well, I just did a proposed trade basically for a guy that I've coveted for the Lakers for a long time, which is Miles Turner. I did an analysis of how Sabonis and Turner have played together, and it's basically been an experiment where you've got two 6'11", 240, 50-pound guys, which are basically centers, stretch centers, but still basically low-post centers. And you're trying to play both of them at the same time, and it hasn't worked out well for...
I think he's 7'1". They're
both 6'11".
Well, Sabonis is 6'10". I think
Sabonis, well, according to ESPN, Sabonis is listed at 6'11", and so is Miles. Okay. But they're both, one of them, Sabonis,
they're tall. How about this? They're both tall.
Yeah. Basically, well, then the big thing is not that they're tall. Neither one of them is, both of them are 240 pounds plus. So you're talking about big guys. And that hasn't worked playing the two of them together. Every single month they started off really well in December for the first 5 games. In January, then all of a sudden they started going negative as far as their net rating on the floor together and the team's defensive rating, net rating. And then in January, it got worse. And in February, it got really bad. And they started off March. They won tonight, but the first game in March, they were like a minus 37 points on the net rating. So I think it's almost inevitable that they're going to have to trade Turner. I know the Celtics have been interested in him in the past. The Lakers would have an interest, obviously, with him. The Nets, I don't think, have the assets to get him at this point in time. But I proposed a trade basically where we would give them Kuzma, Harrell, and THT. And I think that trade came out as far as the trade machine goes as a 3-win gain for the Pacers. I think it's a good trade. I think Kuzma could move right into the starting power forward spot alongside of Sabonis at center. Harrell would be terrific as a backup center. They don't really have any strength after that. And THT basically is the wild card in the deal because he could be the equivalent of a lottery pick for them in the draft. 20 years old, and he has just great potential. So that's the kind of trade that I think it's not a trade for a superstar, but when you look at the impact that Miles Turner could have on the Lakers, both offensively and defensively, it would be a superstar impact for the Lakers. So that's the kind of deal that I think the Lakers have to look to be making, something that would both plug up the problems that they have in rim protection and the size issues that they have, at the same time improve their three-point shooting. You give up Harrell, who basically is somebody that they're probably going to still have a hard time to re-sign. He's not a three-point shooter. He doesn't stretch the floor. And he is a center, so you get a trade of center for center. You give up Kuzma, who I hate to give up but at the same time, he really should be a starter somewhere, and he'll have a chance to start if he was traded. And you give up Horton Tucker, who basically hasn't shown that yet he can be a volume three-point shooter at this point in time. And I think it's more a question of fit on this team. We need rim protection, and we need more volume three-point shooting. I think that's one of the options that we look at is for a trade. I find it hard to find anybody else out on the market, let's say in the $18 million range, which is what's the 3.5 years left on Miles' contract. I don't see anybody else who can fit all of the needs that the Lakers have at the center position, complement Anthony Davis, and open up space for LeBron James, who's affordable and attainable. And there's not many centers that I think would fit that mold. We're not going to be able to go out and get Cat. We're not going to be able to go out and get Embiid or get Jokic. So you have to basically figure out how can you fix that problem that you've got at the center position. And then not only fix it in the short term, but fix it in the long term, because you're talking about a guy who's still only 24 years old in Turner and would be the perfect mate to run the front court with Anthony Davis when LeBron James is gone. So anyway, that article's out and got a lot of reaction from people on that one. And working on basically mid-season grades report card for the Lakers players and the coaching staff and the front office. And hopefully we'll sort of time that together when we do the podcast.
We'll see what happens indeed. But it is Laker Tom. You got to go ahead and check out his awesome column right there at Lakerholics.com. And then, of course, Medium.com as well. You can reach out to him, not at Crazy Laker Tom. No, it's just at Laker Tom right there for you. Laker Tom. Even though he has those crazy trades, there you go. What else you want to give up? A partridge in a pear tree next time? There you go. Kidding, of course. But I understand that for Miles Turner, the bargaining and the negotiations will have to be steep because, like you said, a lot of teams are looking at him.
He leads the league in shot blocks 2 years in a row now.
Yep, and the fact that he can hit you a three-pointer, and that just makes a lot of tantalizing offers available for the Indiana Pacers should they decide to go ahead and finally break up those two between him and Sabonis. So we'll see what happens there. We'll see what happens for the Lakers over the course of the All-Star break. But unfortunately, skidding into the All-Star break with 2 straight losses, now down to 4th place in the Western Conference. But we'll see what happens with the Clippers. But again, they lose 123-120. Very spirited, very energetic today. Almost got it out. Just a couple bunnies that could have gone in, and a whole thing could have changed around for the Lakers going in. But unfortunately, going into the All-Star break, they lose 123-120. But we will be back. Like I said, we've not only got 1, but 2 great podcasts coming up during the break with the LakerHolics.com crew. Plus, I've also got, again, a big hearty congratulations to our good friend Rafael Barlow, who got a nice spot with the Locked On podcast crew. Check out his Locked On Mavs draft and also his episodes on Locked On Draft. So you want to go ahead and check him out. Also Dash Radio and everything that he does, of course, for the NBA Draft Junkies. Just so happy for him that he's moving up in the world and doing so many great things because he works so hard and he's traveled all over to bring you the greatest knowledge in the world about the upcoming draft picks that are out there. So please go ahead and check him out on his stuff. And you can also check him out, hopefully in the next couple of days, right here at the Lakers Fast Break as well. But before we head on out, Tom, any last thoughts on tonight's game before we head on out?
Nope, just glad nobody got injured. Let's hope everybody gets well.
Yeah,
KCP is ready to go in the second half.
KCP was shaky, with his ankle, looked like he got turned there, but I think he'll probably be all right. Harrell's got his face again in the way of a play. Speaking of face the play, before we head on out, this one thing bothers me and bothered my daughter as well. How there was a play where I think it was Corey Joseph, who was actually going to go and leap and try and block a Kuzma shot because Kuzma's coming down the lane for a slam dunk.
Over Trez's leg.
He tripped over Trez's leg.
And then banged into Kuzma while he was in the air.
Face first, banged in the, like he said, and Harrell got called for the foul on the replay. It's just like the last game. I don't know what constitutes a flagrant foul in today's NBA because it's crazy, it turned free throws into an offensive foul on Harrell.
Yeah, and I didn't see any push from Harrell.
No, the guy was clumsy. He tripped over the guy's foot.
He tripped over Harrell and then banged into the legs of
face
Kuzma.
First. Yeah. And they called it on Harrell.
But then again, like the same thing happened in yesterday's game. I mean, for example, I think was it Booker who reached out and grabbed because he was angry because he thought he was fouled. He actually grabbed KCP's leg, and that could have really caused a bad injury. They ended up not calling that a flagrant. KCP tries to block a shot and accidentally hits a guy. I mean, tonight Harrell gets elbowed in the face, and they don't call that as a foul. The last couple of games have been
kind of rough to watch.
Refereed about the same level as the players that were playing the game last day.
Well, you know what? Unfortunately, that is the area where we had the last time there was a very shaky refereeing job between Sacramento and the Lakers 20 years ago, if you remember.
Yeah,
somebody was Tim Donaghy on the take there. So, could history be repeating itself? No, I'm just kidding, of course, but still.
At least we didn't have 10 reviews like we did last night. That just destroys the whole rhythm of the game.
Yeah, that third quarter was a mess yesterday. But still, the Lakers, again, a very spirited performance, but lose 123-120. We'll be back over the course of the All-Star break to bring you some great and special shows to you coming right at you. So please stay tuned. Check us out again. All during the All-Star break, we're going to bring you some great episodes. We've got some great stuff lined up for you right here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.